that the Dutch troops should not have handed the 3 men over to the Serbs. The ruling now opens the way for families of more than 200 other refugees to sue for compensation. In the past few minutes, President Obama has said he'll be holding talks at the White House to try to resolve the political deadlock over the federal budget to ensure that the country does not default on its debt repayments next month. The country has a debt of £14 trillion, and the White House wants to increase that limit. The Republicans are opposing it. Our economics editor Stephanie Flanders assesses the implications for the US and for the global economy.
This is supposed to be the start of America's summer holidays, the Independence Day weekend. But not this year. Not for the politicians. They still have to find a way to prevent the world's richest economy defaulting on its debt in just a few weeks' time. The current limit on the amount of US federal debt was set last year at $14.3 trillion. With more than $100 billion in new borrowing every month, the government will hit that ceiling at the start of August. But Republicans won't let the administration borrow more without massive spending cuts.
President Obama will talk a big game and assert that he's virtuous with regard to spending, but then not really propose anything and ridicule those who propose cuts. At the same time, he calls for tax increases, and almost every Republican has signed a pledge not to increase taxes.
The markets are worried that America's deficit's still going up this far into a recovery. One ratings agency said that the US could lose its AAA credit rating, but there are good and bad ways to cut borrowing. No one wants America to stumble into a default.
US government debt is the building block of the global financial system. It's vitally important for the plumbing, if you like, of the global financial system. So avoiding a default on US government debt is absolutely essential.
The result of a default could be so cataclysmic. Everyone here in Washington expects the two sides eventually to do a deal, but they're taking it very close to the wire. The whole battle has raised questions about America's ability to solve
The national threat level in the UK, which is severe at the moment, and we have been planning on the basis of that same threat level in relation to the Olympics. I think that's the right approach to take.
One of the big security hurdles is cost. There's a £600 million envelope available. Today the Home Secretary was talking in terms of coming in under £500 million. The Commissioner talking in terms of coming in under £600 million.
There are many challenges still to overcome. We are working with the funding envelope. That's our responsibility.
So under 600, you think?
We're working with the funding envelope.
Why are you taking them in the kitchen?
As cheap as cost as we can, but not at the cost of good security.
How much were you talking to us and how much were you talking to the Home Secretary?
The whole conversation is too well.
Enjoyment doesn't become intrusive. Venues will be routinely searched. There'll be magnetic arches and bag searches. Organisers, though, will be anxious to keep queues moving. The Beijing Olympics was criticised for at times feeling more like a policing event than a sporting event. And that's exactly the challenge for the Met. How do you put on Britain's biggest police peacetime operation and not the approachable British public? Oric O'Brien, BBC London News.
3 teenagers have launched a legal challenge over the Met's use of so-called kettling to control protesters. They claim that being kept in a cordon during the demonstrations over tuition fees in November breached their human rights. Scotland Yard says that when used proportionately, the tactic works very well. 2 schoolboys have been arrested following the murder of a teenager on a busy high street in south-east London. 16-year-old Yamarai Kanyan was stabbed in the neck seconds after getting off a bus in Welling on Friday afternoon. A 15-year-old from Peckham and a 14-year-old from Camberwell were arrested this morning. Detectives have described it as one of the most brutal murders they've seen in 25 years. London Fire Brigade says there could be 500,000 fridge freezers being used in people's homes which pose a serious fire risk. The brigade says a fire at a tower block in Bermondsey last week was caused by the faulty part in a fridge made by the firm Beko. Several of the company's products have developed problems which have been linked to up to 20 fires. One of them was fatal. Yvonne Hall reports.
I never thought Beko were a good make anyway, although I think that's what we got out there.
Now know this fire in a flat in Bermondsey was caused by a potentially lethal fridge freezer. This is another one which burst into flames. London Fire Brigade says there's now been 20 incidents involving fridges made by Beko. 1 person has died, 15 have been injured.
It's a small unit in the back of the defrost unit of the fridge freezer, which seems to allow water into it, causing it to burn and then set fire to all of the material around it.
Well, this is the headquarters of the fridge manufacturer Beko here in Watford, and staff here have been inundated all day long with hundreds of calls from concerned customers.
Beko PLC, good afternoon. Okay, do you have the model number of your client?
The company says it's been trying to contact everyone who's bought one of the faulty frost-free fridges, which were made between 2000 and 2006.
We've had to put a plan in place to contact as many people as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. Now, as along the fire brigade mentioned, there's 500